So I'm delighted to be hosting the development panel, which is our more junior athletes coming up through their own career in the sport, which I'm sure will be incredibly successful for them all, and hopefully it'll be successful from the coaching they receive. So we have Roisin Hannon from Canoe Slalom, we have Ava Nee Driscoll from Canoe Sprint and Canoe Marathon, and Owen Bracken from Canoe Polo. So thank you very much, all of us, for joining us here. So we'll get right into it about your own experience of coaching. So Roisin, if you want to start, what has been your experience of coaching in paddling so far?
So I started paddling around the age of 9 in a local club, and there wasn't so much coaching, but there's kind of a community of different people who kind of helped out the younger people. And then I suppose the first time I kind of got coached was by my brother and by my dad in slalom, which was, an interesting experience being coached by a family member because it's obviously a lot different when you know the person. You can kind of say, yeah, I don't want to do that, or yeah, I don't want to go into the stopper. But yeah, and then after that, the first coach that I had outside of my family was Owen Reinish. And then I went away for a summer with Marc Chagou and a French club called Cadpa. And then last year, 2020, I was coached by Hannah Craig and by Han Bynan in France for the summer for 2 months.
Okay, so plenty of coaching experience anyway, probably about the same amount of coaches that I've had by this stage, and a slight age gap. So Ava, if you want to go next, just your experience so far of coaching.
So I started paddling when I was really young because my mom and my dad were really involved in canoeing. So my dad was kind of my first coach, but he wasn't as such my coach. He was just kind of a mentor or something like that. And then I started paddling in Salmon Leaf Canoe Club with a group of juniors when I was about 13, 14. And I started training with John Simmons, and I've been with him ever since. So that's been great. And then I suppose the last year, I'm still working with John a lot, but my dad has been also around a lot this year with the lockdown. But yeah, that's it.
Brilliant. So Owen, same for you. Your experience coaching so far.
I've started kayaking around 10 years ago when I was 8, and it was with my 2 brothers and my sister, and we've been kayaking ever since. For the last 5 years, I've been training in Kilcock for canoe polo, and I was originally taught in these development trainings that happened monthly, but then I started to train with them weekly. As Trish McCormick said, I'd be better off training with Kilcock weekly than just on the odd time. After that, I've been training for the development team for Ireland, and then for a while I've been on the Irish under-21 men's, who Shane Kinsley coaches.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for all those. They were great. So moving on from that, you've all had plenty of experience of coaching. So even when you started and now, what's the most important thing that a coach can do for you for an environment, for what is them creating an environment for you to progress? And I suppose this is going to be probably a very interesting one for Roisin and Ava, because you've both been coached by family members. And how does that influence the environment that's created? Is it better or worse, do you think, that you're that close to the person? So Roisin, again, if you want to go first, like if you first want to just generically what you like a coach to do in creating an environment, whether you want it to feel really safe or whether you want it to be an environment that'll push you, and then a little bit about how being coached by a family member might influence that.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, I find it a lot easier to be coached when there's a very relaxed environment and you've a good relationship with the coach and you feel like you know them quite well, because otherwise it's not as easy to communicate with them when you don't really understand each other or what they're trying to tell you. It's harder to say, yeah, I don't really know what's going on, or no, I'm too scared to do that. But then there's also the balance of being coached by a family member, and then you're so close to them that you can say, I really don't want to do that, or you can weasel your way out of doing stuff that you don't want to do. Whereas if there's someone there who you aren't as close with, you're not gonna deny doing what they ask you to do, but you might say that you're feeling a bit worried about it, and then they'll try and help you. So yeah, I think a good, comfortable environment.
So you need a balance between knowing them well enough that you're going to speak a common language and that they're going to know how to communicate the coaching to you, but not so close as a family member that you can get out of anything. Okay, yeah, really, really interesting. So Ava, same for you, and coming up in a paddling family, you probably had a similar experience. So same thing again, like what kind of environment do you want a coach to create, and then is that something that you've learned the wrong way from family members, or maybe the right way from family members?
I think it's really important that for me, that the coach creates like a fun and like happy environment. Like, I think it can be taken like very like too seriously nearly at times. Like, obviously we're training hard, like, and it is serious, but it doesn't have to be serious all the time. And it needs to have, if it's not fun, you're not gonna give it like your all. So I think that's really important. And yeah, I suppose like when I was younger, I wasn't training like properly really. So when my dad was coaching me, it wasn't like, I don't know, but it was like, if I didn't want to do a session, like, I might just say it, like Roisin said. But so that was kind of a bit hard maybe, but when I'm with John, like, I'll just do it. You kind of get on with it. I think now, like, that I'm a bit older, I do kind of just get on with it because I know that it's for the best, and yeah, that's worthwhile, and that's the best thing for me to do.
And when you say like, just when you were talking about just getting on with it, if it's from John, does it still help that it's a really fun environment, that like to create even for the hard sessions that you don't want to do, to have that fun element into it?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're gonna be more likely to do it. Like, if you're gonna go out and do it, like, I don't know, your family member or something, you might not give it like your all, but if you're out racing against like your friends or something, there's a bit of rivalry as well.
And Owen, which is I'm finding really interesting as well, for the fact that it's a team. What kind of environment does the coach need to create? That I know it's probably going to be a lot harder, because although they're coaching a team of individuals, and each individual might need a different environment. So how do you find that versus for like the environment that you might want versus maybe a different environment that the team creates?
The majority of us have kind of like the same environment of going off playing matches, or on the odd time doing fitness or practicing techniques. But I think it's important for the coach as well to be vocal with us and to be able to have a good relationship with us, but also be knowing what our play style is. Like, I'm more of a strength type of player than an overall fitness side of things, but it's really important where they get to know everyone's play style and where they suit best and where they be better performing in that position.
Okay. And so do you think that the coach needs to still, so while they're coaching all this, then they're going to have to still coach to all of the players different kind of the environment that they might like for them to be able to progress, but then also to each of their playing styles?
Yeah, I honestly think that they should, like, the coaches focus on playing style of the player, because they know what they're doing, and they know the player knows like they're good in that certain position, and that they'll be better at shooting, or they're better at going into the offense or anything like that. So
brilliant. So to get into more of the coach through the athlete's eyes, the next question I was going to ask is, what type of coaching do you respond best to? And it might be something that you haven't given much thought to, but for me anyway, that I really respond well to like a collaborative coaching style, that me and my coach will discuss everything, and it's not going to be my coach tells me that I have to do it this way and just go and do it. That what really works for me is that the coach will ask me what I think, really take my opinion in, and then we can discuss what best to do and move forward that way, as opposed to just saying you have to go and do it this way. But some people really like the coach just having the confidence and the knowledge to say you have to do it this way. And then there's other ways of doing it, of like a really nurturing style of just like trying to create a very comfortable environment that you feel like comfortable to ask whatever question you want. So probably a lot to answer, but Roisin, if even just a very general way of like, this is the style I want somebody to approach me with for coaching.
Yeah, I'd be kind of similar in that I don't really like being told the real technical side of things. Like if someone tells me like a really detailed version of how to do something, it totally just like goes out one ear and then goes in with one ear and out the other. But if I'm told, you know, it should feel like this and then you should do that, and I kind of get to try it a few times, and then without feeling that like if I try it too many times, they'll be thinking, geez, she's terrible, or why is she trying it so many times? Kind of that environment where you can just keep going, and then, you know, a few snippets of advice, and then kind of working back and forth on something where it's like not just do this and then you do it, you kind of go back to it and then get more advice. Yeah. So
would you say that the language that the coach uses is probably more important than their overall style, that the language is going to be something that you'll respond to a lot more of if it's phrased in a certain way, and if they're talking about the feeling as opposed to the technical detail, that the language is more important to you than the overall style?
Yeah, definitely. The language would be a big factor of my understanding of what they're actually trying to tell me. Yeah, how they say it, and like kind of simpler than all the details. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great stuff. So Ava, same thing. So what's the style of coaching that you really respond to, or if similar to Roisin, that it's more a language and a communication thing?
I think it's good for me just to be told what to do and I just do it. But I also think it is important that you do feel comfortable with your coach, and you can say, like, you know, someday if you're feeling tired or whatever, you can say that, and maybe you can tweak a session someday, and then the next day you can pick up the pieces and stuff like that. I think it is. I like a structure and being told like this is what we're going to do today, but I think it is important to be able to change it and to just go along with how you're feeling and other things like that.
Okay, so like you kind of want that prescriptive way of they'll tell you the way to do it, but that they need to understand as well that like you as an athlete, you know how your body will respond, and you know how you'll adapt to a training load. So they also need to trust you as much as you trust them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. So same question to you then, Owen, as for the two girls. So what type of coaching do you respond best to? Is it that kind of collaborative coaching where there's a bit of back and forth, or just the coach telling you what to do? Like what kind of style, what kind of language and approach suits you best?
I think more of a collaborative point of view, because then they get to say, then we both sides get a say of what's going to happen, because it would be better if everyone was able to agree on the one tactic than, you know, just being told you're doing this tactic. It'd be better off if we were able to come up with an idea all together and be able to perform that task that we've set out for ourselves.
Okay, so like you want like a coach who's really going to value your input and the team's input, and it's not just going to be that they know best, that they're going to know that you all know yourselves as athletes and as a team, and that your input on the tactic or the training is going to be as valuable as theirs.
Yeah, exactly, because it's important for both sides to have a say into it, and like the coach knows how well you play and you know how you play, but sometimes you might have a bit of a idea for yourself, and the coach might have an idea for another thing, but you would try and find a happy medium between the two and work on that.
Okay, so that it's the coaches and just another member on the team, as opposed to the team and the coach. It's one unit, and
Yeah.
you're all going to work together. Okay, yeah, perfect. That's great stuff. So coming to our second last question, what's your ideal role of a coach? That if you could get your ideal coach, would that coach be somebody who who like always makes sure that you're comfortable, who like sometimes pushes you a wee bit, or somebody who doesn't give you as much technical feedback and lets you figure it out by yourself? Like, what's your ideal coach? Like, what's the ideal way for you to learn, would you say? And starting with Roisin again.
I suppose a big thing would be someone that you feel you can talk to. So yeah, and someone that if you're in a group, that they're inclusive of the whole group, and that they kind of see you as having the same potential as everyone in the group, and that everyone is given the same amount of attention and included in the training session. And I suppose that motivates you and pushes you a bit without pushing you out of your boundaries and kind of scaring you too much to go back to doing something that they pushed you too much on. But at the same time, I think it's good to be pushed a little, otherwise you're just going to stay in your comfort zone and you may not progress any more than where you are. And someone who is there like to motivate you as well, and to make you feel as if you're making progress, and that you can kind of you can rely and bounce back on when you're looking for a bit of motivation.
Okay, so somebody who can see that everybody has the same potential, but they might just need a different route to reach that potential.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And that, you feel as if you are valued the same as the whole group, and that you can reach the same potential as the whole group.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, definitely interesting about how you need to be, no matter what group you're in, have every athlete feel like they're as valued. A very, very good point. So Ava, the same thing for you. The your ideal role of a coach, is it somebody, as you said, who'll give you a program and tell you to do it, but will be flexible, or is there anything else you'd be like, I'd love a coach who would do that?
Yeah, I think it's quite similar to Roisin. Like, I think it's definitely important to get out of your comfort zone, because that's when you're going to improve. But like, you do need to be comfortable a lot of the time as well. And I think the group aspect is really good as well. And that everyone in the group is valued the same way. No matter like how, like if you're a girl or a boy, or how fast you are or slow you are, like everyone should be the same. And I think it's also that the coach creates a good environment within the group, so that you can kind of compete within your own group as well, and push each other on in a positive way. And that also puts you out of your comfort zone as well sometimes. So yeah, I think that's good.
And do you think while you're younger that the group thing is really important? Do you think would what you want from the coach be different if you were maybe training by yourself or versus training in a group?
Yeah, for sure. I think it is. I think it's important to train with the group a lot of the time, and I think it's important to not train with the group as well. There's a lot of benefits to both, I think. Like in the group, you learn so much. Like even like if you learn about like other people's mistakes as well, and how you could handle a situation differently. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. So, and same thing. What's your ideal coach? And I know you kind of hinted at it before, of a coach that a coach that's going to listen to your advice on tactics and stuff like that. So, is there anything else that you can think of that your perfect coach who's gonna bring you to the top? Anything else that you might add for what that would be?
I would also think of them being critical of the things that you're not doing as well, and other points. Like, let's say I messed up on a run going in for scoring a goal or anything like that. They would let that know what I did wrong and how I should have done it then, and how I should do it from now on. I think that is really important, to know what your bad things are, so that you can improve on them and not just think of all of the good things in your position as a player on the sport. I also think it's really good for the rest of the team to be knowing what they're doing before they get onto the pitch, because there could be the odd time that someone might not know what they're going to be doing on the pitch, and they just don't know what to do. But eventually they will learn. But yeah.
Perfect. So we'll go onto our last little question, which is just going to be, what advice would you give to a coach working with athletes your age? So Roshan, if you want to go first with what would be your advice?
I suppose the first thing I would think of is to just be really open with them and make sure that they know that it's okay to talk to them about anything really, and that you develop kind of a good relationship and that you're both comfortable, saying anything to each other. And I guess the other thing I would have thought of just there was coming from I used to do a lot of swimming, and there's a big difference obviously because there's not as many paddlers in Ireland, and there's kind of a very set, like you'd have training this day at this time with this coach, and you didn't really have to concern yourself with like when anything would be and that kind of thing. So I think I know it's not really that possible with the amount of paddlers and the system right now because there's so few people, but I think that kind of consistency is important for young people so that you kind of know what you're going to do and you know that you can rely on having it. Otherwise people kind of drop off and they don't really, it's harder to see, it's harder to stick with something when you're kind of unsure of what the future is with it and the situation.
Perfect. So Owen, we'll go to you next then. The same thing. What bit of advice would you give to a coach coaching someone your age?
I would say to have the coach be more approaching for some players, because some players might think that they can't go up to the coach about a certain problem, but they really should be, and that they should be able to give the coach should be able to give the player the opportunity to give their own opinion on a certain tactic or a certain skill that they're doing or a certain technique in the sport, and to just in general be approachable and be able to give clear instructions and to be able to know what other players' strengths and weaknesses are and how they should work on it and how to just improve in the sport in general.
Perfect. So the same one for you, of what would be the one piece of advice you'd give to a coach coaching someone your age, and it can just be your opinion or whatever you think.
I think it's really important that the coach creates like a good environment, a happy environment. It has to be fun. You have to enjoy it, otherwise you're not going to give it your all. And I think you need to be able to talk to your coach and let them know how you're feeling, and even stuff not related to canoeing that you can talk to them about. A good relationship there. And I think it's important to have an understanding of the coach needs to know how where the athlete wants to go within the sport and how much they want to push in the sport. And there's a big difference between just wanting to go out for a paddle every now and again or wanting to win a world championship medal. I think that's really important to know that where you want to go.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's brilliant that the three of you have all brought, the main point is just about that communication, that very open two-way street of communication with your coach, that that you can come to them with absolutely anything, and anything you bring to them is going to help them understand you as a person as well as a paddler and understand your motivations for the sport, which it'll make a closer relationship, and then it'll also just help everybody understand what way you communicate and enhance both the coaching and your just personal relationship, was going to push everything on further. So I think that's absolutely fantastic stuff from three of you. So Roshi and Owen and Ava, thank you so much for talking to us and chatting to us about this. So and best of luck in your bright futures in paddling.